Hey, welcome to another episode of This Is Our Normal Podcast. I'm your host, Saul Jones, and I'm sitting here this week with our producer, Joel Cowan.
What up?
What's going on, man? Hey, so before we get started, want to remind everybody to go to the website, thisisournormalpodcast.com. There's a contact link on the website. Click it. You can write in if you have questions for any of our prior guests or questions for us. If you want to comment on the show, if you want to get on the show, Joel's setting up something so that you can do call-ins so that we can have some call-ins on the show. Just got to click that contact link first, and it'll allow you to email us, let us know so we can set something up. There's also links to iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, as well as our Twitter and Instagram handles. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook as well. So I got a little bit of stuff planned for us today. I was going to talk about some of my first times. I don't think I've told you any of these, have I, Joel? Any of my first time stories?
No, I haven't heard any of them.
Okay.
No, so I'm excited.
All right. So, I've spoke before. My DOC was opiates, but I also did some methamphetamine, a couple stints there. And the meth stories are always a little funnier because, come on.
Because the epidemic.
well, the epidemic is more with the opioids.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, I get it. With the opiates, it's like I was able to kind of hide it more and be kind of like I don't know. I blended in. I was a little chameleon with the opiates, where when I started doing meth, it was just really, really apparent, really, really fast. So, but I want to talk about before the first time I ever went into treatment, right? So I had been doing opiates for, I want to say 5 or 6 years at the time. I was married, and I had tried to quit multiple times on my own, and it was just, the withdrawal was just unbearable. And it was more the length of the withdrawal than anything, because I'd take time off work. I'd take like a week off and then be like, hey, I'm going to do it right now. And I'd get halfway through that week, and it felt like it was never going to end. And, my body was flushing. It was the fever. It was just, it felt like I couldn't sit still, like I couldn't not move, but at the same time I had no energy. So I had to like lay in bed, but it was thrashing around, if that makes any sense.
Why'd you turn to opiates?
So opiates, I think I mentioned it in the Nasty Nate episode. I was at a theme park with my ex-wife and her family, and I had been drinking already. I was an alcoholic already at the time, but like when we went to the theme park, I had a headache. I asked her dad, if he had any Tylenol, and ended up having a Vicodin on him. And so once I took that, literally from that day on, I just never didn't take them. It was,
what kind of opiates would you do?
So it was mainly Vicodin and Norcos. But I did mix in some oxycodone. I tried to smoke. I didn't know that you could smoke the oxys, and so just like heroin,
Is that how is that possible?
With foil, I guess I don't know. I never did it. I smoked heroin one time when I was in treatment. My last stint, I had gone out. I left the premises for a little bit and smoked some heroin with some guys off foil, but somebody had to light it for me and stuff. I was not very capable with that, but I guess you can do the same thing with the pills. But I ended up I was just eating them, and I, as much of a instant gratification needing addict that I could still wait the 45 minutes if I had to, to get the full, because I researched everything. It's one of my flaws, and I had researched snorting pills, and you lose 15% of the absorption rate if you snort them.
So what you're saying is, as an addict, we can still wait?
Yeah, sometimes.
For the bigger bang?
Yeah, sometimes. But so I was doing these pills for a while, and I gave it a really good shot at just quitting them. I took some time off work. I'm like, I quit these. I got about 3 days in, and I'd already looked up that, you know, it's not dangerous to come off of opiates by yourself. That's fine. You're gonna get sick and it's gonna feel crappy, but it's not like if you're coming off of alcohol or benzos, like that's dangerous. Like you need to get. I can't stress this enough. I've had people die that were close to me doing this. You have to get medical attention if you're coming off of benzos or alcohol, because you can have seizures. And it gets really, really dangerous. So I know some people that were really trying to do the right thing and get sober and didn't seek medical attention with that, and it turned into a disaster. But with opiates, you know, you can do it by yourself. It's just going to suck. So I knew this already. I knew that I'd be fine, you know, but the addict in me was like 3 days in, kind of knew that even if I went to a doctor and said like, hey, I'm going through withdrawal, like, what can you do for me? I knew the only answer was either they were going to either treat the symptoms, you know, with some garbage that I wasn't going to take, like some blood pressure medication, or, you know, anti-diarrheal medicine, stuff like that. But, or option two, they might give me some more opiates, right? So 3 days in, you know, you're not even halfway through the initial detox at this point. And I said, you know, I'm going to go to the urgent care, I'm going to tell them straight up, you know, my wife wanted to come with me, of course, make sure I wasn't trying anything shady. But even with her there, I was still planning some shady shit. So I get in there, and the doctor, you know, I tell him what's going on, and the doctor, and it's not his fault. It's urgent care doctors aren't there to treat people, you know, in addiction.
Don't they even ask you, like, are you an addict or anything?
Yeah, well, I mean, I told him straight up. I said, look, I'm an opiate addict. I'm going through withdrawal. I'm trying to get off the medication. It's been 3 days since I've taken any opiates. And he was like, he's like, you shouldn't do that by yourself. That's dangerous. And I'm thinking, no, it's not actually. But I was like, yeah. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes, it is. You know? And so he's like, you know, what I'm going to do is prescribe you some more opiates. He's like, when was your last like fill that you had? Which I had filled pretty recently, but I had filled the 500s. So a little trick is that I learned when I was doctor shopping, if they fill you a prescription that's either larger dose than what you had before, at least this is how it used to be. They've really gotten strict on this stuff. But if they filled you a larger dose than what you had before, or like a different opioid or something like that, then your insurance would still fill it. So he prescribed me double the strength of the dose that I was taking before. I was taking the 5 milligrams of hydrocodone and the 500 milligrams of acetaminophen. And so he prescribed me the 10 milligrams of hydrocodone and 325 of the acetaminophen. And so he gives me 45 of them, which I'm thinking in my head, like, okay, honestly, with the amount I was taking at the time, that's like 1 or 2 days worth. I was taking, of the 500s, I was taking, I'd take 20 of them in the morning and 20 of them at night. And it was so much acetaminophen that it was making me sick. Like I would throw up from the Tylenol in it, but yet not get quite out of withdrawal with the hydrocodone. It just wasn't enough. So that's why I all of a sudden wanted to get sober. You know, for me, it was never a wanting of like, I just don't want to do drugs anymore, because it was never fun. It was never a good time for me doing drugs. It was always just getting me to par, even when I first started. It was getting me to where I felt like what I thought everybody else felt like in society. This like no more judgment. Me and you talked a little bit about it, or I think Nasty Nate too, of that like that feeling of always being judged all the time, or just uncomfortable in my own skin. And then the opiates took me away from that. So that's what I was dealing with always with the opiates. And so now, you know, I'm at this doctor, right? And I'm asking him, he tells me, you know, he'll give me double the strength. Oh, that's what I was going to say, the wanting. You know, it was never that I wanted to get sober. It was that, like, I didn't want to feel sick anymore, you know? And the pills weren't working to even get me to feel comfortable in society, because they were barely not getting me to feel sick.
Do you think that addicts get a higher tolerance quicker than the general population?
You know what? That's a great question, man. Because I I don't know the answer to that. I've actually asked doctors that question too, and I man, I wish I remember the answer he gave me, but it was something like kinda. You know what I
Maybe
mean?
that's why we get addicted.
That, and just we have that impulse control thing already, where we need that. We have issues with everything impulse. That's why we want to get tattoos, or we want to do risky business. We're more prone to doing like risky sex, or go skydiving. Adrenaline rushes. Because it's that impulse control. Addiction's just another side effect. Or another symptom of the impulse control disorder or disease. But yeah, I've always thought that, and I don't know the answer to that, but I definitely need to research that. What do you think?
I think, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, most of the addicts I talk to, it's like their tolerance level disappears quick, and always had, and that it was never much fun. At least, especially with the opiates. It's like the opiates. Man, it just takes over so quick. Or what was your experience with because yours was cocaine, right?
Yeah.
How quickly did your tolerance levels disappear with that?
The more I did it, it was kind of like for me, I used it when I was 25 for the first time. I didn't get immediately hooked. It wasn't until 2 years later. So it was kind of like this big snowball that wouldn't move very fast. And as soon as it hit the cliff, it was
Did you just snowball just because cocaine? Because I like it a lot.
I didn't think about that. No, I did. But it makes sense.
So yours was pretty quick. Did it?
It was kind of like once I hit the ledge, I had a really big snowball already. Because I had the impulse control disease.
Yeah. So you're saying like once your tolerance started disintegrating, then it really disintegrated quick? Is that?
Yeah. For me, it was just a giant ledge.
Yeah. You know what? I experienced kind of a similar thing as well. Yeah. I think you kind of nailed that right on the head. You described exactly my feeling as well. Oh, but okay. So I go to this doctor because now I don't want these negative consequences, right? I don't want the consequences of feeling sick all the time. I don't want the consequences of spending all of our money so that we can't get food. There were months where we had to choose, like, we'd have 3 or 4 bills that it was like, okay, are we paying the gas bill this month? Are we paying the electric bill this month and the phone bill? But yeah, we had 2 other bills, ready to go. Or there's a couple times, dude, where I was like, sorry, just no gas bill. And we took cold ass showers, dude. You ever taken a cold shower in winter?
Sounds awful.
Bro, it was bad, man. It was bad. And like, my job, I like to take a couple showers a day because I sweat a lot at work. And like, dude, it was to the point where it's like, you just jump in and jump out. It was so bad.
There was a point, not in my addiction, where I had a roommate, and he, unfortunately, I told him not to. He shaved in the shower, and the shower got clogged, so I couldn't shower in my own house for 2 weeks.
Oh my god,
it was awful.
What did you do? Get a gym membership? Because I thought about that too.
I had to shower at friends' houses.
Oh man.
Until we had some guy come and use a snake to get it out. It was awful. But
and then, did you watch him take the stuff out of the drain?
It was disgusting.
It smells awful too.
And I did not want that roommate coming back.
It could have been a little bit you. You're kind of a Jew. We shed.
No.
Us Jews shed.
I shave outside the shower in front of the mirror by the sink like a normal person. This is our normal.
This is our normal, bro. But okay, so check this out. So I'm finally tired of these consequences. I'm like, I'm going to go to this doctor. I go there. He tells me, you shouldn't be doing this. It's dangerous. I said, yeah, I know. You're telling me, doc, So he says, I'm going to prescribe you double the dose. And he gives me 45 of them. And he says, do you think you can wean yourself off with these? And my ex is looking at me like, bro, like, you're not, that's a no. We've been trying that. You already know the answer to this. But I'm like, yeah, let's give it a shot. So he's like, okay. So I take him home. I come back. I think it was not even quite 48 hours later. I come back in withdrawal already, right? In withdrawal. And I'm like, because the minute I don't take them, like it was every like 6 hours if I wasn't taking them, withdrawal already. Even if I took 20 of those things, 6 to 8 hours later, I'm like, withdrawal, need 20 more, you know?
Yeah.
So I come back less than 48 hours later and I'm like, hey, so those are gone. What now, doc? You know? And he's like, what do you mean those are gone? I'm like, yeah, I gave it a shot. Dude, I gave it the old college try, and you know, they're gone. And he's like, oh, you need help. Like, and I was,
God.
I was like, that's why I'm here, dude. What do you mean? I already know this, bro. I already know.
You knew you need help, but you didn't do anything about it?
Well, I mean, when I came in, I told him I'm a drug addict. I'm withdrawing. That was the first things out of my mouth.
And he still gave you.
Yeah, that was his. I think he just hadn't dealt with, you know, like I said, he's an urgent care doctor. He's there for you come in with some strep throat or you got, you know, the flu or something. He's not used to, hey, you know, I'm in withdrawal from drugs. So, because usually we go to the ER when we're in withdrawal.
It's more serious.
And Mikey Hall tells me this story about he shot his foot one time. He took a gun and shot himself in the foot. He's got the scar. Shot himself in the foot, went to the ER, and they were like, here's 15 pills. Like, that's, you know what I mean? And he was like, worth it. You know? Yeah, dude.
He probably reflects on that.
Oh, dude. He hates himself for it. Well, he did. He's, you know, he's gone to therapy and worked through it now, but he just felt silly for it, you know?
Yeah.
But so, okay, so I go, he tells me, he's like, no, you need to go like to a treatment facility, and I'm like, I don't have time for that. I'm already halfway through my only week off work. Like, I can't go to a treatment facility. And he's like, well, then you need to go to a methadone clinic. And methadone is synthetic heroin. It's the withdrawal from it is worse than heroin. It's they park people on methadone that are, you're only, by the way, if you have a pill problem like I did, do not step it up to methadone. It was one of the worst decisions of my life. I almost understand it if you're trying to get off heroin, you just can't, you're having trouble on that. I can almost but really methadone clinics are not for addicts. They're not to benefit us. They're society. They're harm reduction for society. It's supposed to stop us from you know, exchanging needles all the time or using dirty needles. It's supposed to, you know, stop some stealing and stuff, and it gives us a place where we can go where they give us basically, I mean, this stuff is as strong as heroin, if not stronger. And there's a whole documentary on it. But it, you know, so you know, I'm like, okay, I'm just thinking, yeah, let's go try it out. I didn't research it because I already knew at this point that it was gonna be a bump up from what I was doing. I wanted to do it, you know, because
why does a program like this exist?
A harm reduction for society.
But it causes more harm to addicts? Is that what you're
saying?
Yeah,
because society doesn't care about the addicts. We're drug addicts. We're pieces of shit. No, I'm saying, I mean, you know what I mean? That's what they think. They just think we choose to do this. We don't care about anybody else. It's and they're right. This is our choices, and we are selfish, or we're self-centered when we're using. We're self-centered. Selfish would be different. You know, we're more of like we're looking to get our fix, you know? So okay, I go to this methadone clinic, and you have to go extremely early in the morning. I had to be there at like 4:30 or 5 in the morning. And you go in, I talk to the doctor, I tell him exactly what I'm on. And they tell you come in withdrawal, which sucks because you're waiting in this line. There's all these other addicts that are also miserable, and you're just like, you're in withdrawal. You just feel like garbage. And they sit you down with this doctor. The doctor, man, Jesus, he was old. Let's put it that way. He was not going to be a doctor for very much longer if you catch my drift. You know what I mean? I was worried that this line was going to take too long and there was not going to be a doctor there anymore. That's how old he was, right? So I get in there, like he's older than addiction. You know what I mean? He got to see the start of addiction. That's how old.
Man.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So you know he comes in. I explain to him, you know, what all I've been taking, and that it's been pills. And I exaggerate how many pills because I wanted a higher dose of methadone. Um, I somehow convince Emily, like, stay out here when I go in with the doctor. It's a little personal because I've been using more than I said, and it's a little embarrassing. And it was, I wanted to go and exaggerate because I wanted a higher dose. I've already, at this point, I'm past my midbrain has kicked in so hard that it's like, we just want more drugs now, So I go in, they start me off on 65 milligrams of methadone per day. They give you half the dose right away. You sit 30 minutes, make sure there's no negative reaction, take the other half of the dose. So I do it, and it's this liquid form. You gotta, after talking to the doctor, you have to get in this big line. You go through, and they take you back into this counter where there's only 2 drug addicts at a time, and then a couple nurses that administer the methadone. And so, man, okay, so I finally get back there. I take it. I wait the 30 minutes, and already I'm feeling buzzed off half the dose. So I'm thinking, this is going to be great. I take the other half of the dose, and oh, my God. I'm like, this is perfect. Yeah, no, good. We're at a good dose. You know what I mean?
But did you withdraw from it at some point?
Well, here's the thing. Good question, because methadone has a half-life of like 36 to 48 hours, which means, like, if you
that's how much time you have until your next fix.
Basically, basically that's how long it's going to take to fully come out of your system. So because of the long half-life, you're not really feeling the withdrawal before your next dose. You get what I mean?
So this is really just exacerbating the problem.
Oh, it's making it way worse.
Exacerbating.
Yeah, and the thing is too, most and this because they drug test you too. They do random drug tests because you can eventually start taking some home with you, because at first you have to go every day, every morning, to this place, stand in this line, go back there, get your dose. And for me, I was working, so it was like I had to be there when it first opened at 5, be the first one in line. I had to drive all the way to Santa Ana, which was like 35-40 minutes from where I lived, take this dose at 5 in the morning, drive all the way back down to Mission Viejo, and go to work. Right? So I and every once in a while you get down there and they're like, oh, it's your random drug test. And you're like, fuck, I don't have time for that, but you got to piss really quick. So I always went down there with a full bladder. I never had a bad test. My tests I only ever popped positive for methadone, but the majority of people on methadone test dirty for heroin on top of it. That they're using heroin or meth or benzos, and benzos are so dangerous. If you're on methadone or anything, methadone, heroin, any opiate, but methadone especially, you do not want to mix in Xanax, Ativan, that type of stuff, Klonopin, because your heart will just slow down and stop. I mean, it's dangerous. So they test you for this stuff, and if you test clean for long enough, they start to let you take 3 of them home at a time, right? So you get the weekend. So you come in, you take one, then they let you take 3 with you. And so I got to do that at the soonest point that it was available for me, because all my tests were clean. So now I'm taking a few home, right? And I'm taking these home with me. And at first, no problem, right? You have to get this little lockbox thing, and you take one there, you take a shot up there, and then you take the other ones home with you. And then you come back on the following Monday, and then you got to do the rest of the week. You're doing some sangles, right? And then the weekend comes, you get to do it again. So I do that, no problem, until I had been there long enough to where I got to take a week home at a time, right? So I come in on Monday, we take a shot, get to take the other, 6 with you, and then come back the following Monday. So that's where the issue started, because now I have these, and it got to where, like, the minute I got the week's worth, for some reason something clicked in my head where, like, my first ride back to work, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna take a little extra shot of this. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, dude?
I've never been to the methadone clinic, so this is all new information to me.
But you ever done a line of Coke and been like, I want another line of Coke?
This sounds more on a much larger scale.
Oh, Joel's better than us, guys. Joel's better than us.
I'm no better than the rest of you. I just haven't been there.
No,
that's why this is all new information to me.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
I know.
You little Jew.
I'm 5'10", man.
That's true. You're a big dude.
I'm just normal sized, I think.
Okay, so so we so now I'm taking a little like half shot of it on top of it every time that I leave there. Well, that rolls into like eventually when I'm picking them up, I'm taking because now since I've taken that extra half, that means I'm gonna be missing a half on the back end, right? So now the night before I go to pick them up again, I'm missing half. So I'm only getting half the dose, and now I'm withdrawing by the time that I get there to pick it up, because since the tolerance builds on it, it's no longer lasting its full half-life. So it's no longer lasting 36 hours. Plus now I only have half the dose for the night before, or the day before. You take it the morning before. So now I'm go a whole day and a whole night. I'm losing sleep the night before with the withdrawal. And I noticed the withdrawal has stepped its fucking game up.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
Who funds the methadone clinic?
It depends. So they either charge you, it was like $11 a day, or if you have insurance, with insurance, it was $11 a day. If you don't have insurance, it's like $55 a day. So the answer is insurance companies.
I'm just, I since I'm not aware of this, it's like, I guess it's like, why does this exist? And you keep saying it's like to help, but it's not helping.
It's not to help addicts. It's to help society. It's harm reduction, reduces disease spreading from dirty needles. It also is to prevent us from stealing to fund our addictions. So the only people able to go here are people with some sort of insurance, really, because otherwise you can't afford it.
And they still allow addicts to come in? Like, how?
The whole point is for addicts to come in, man. That's the whole point. It's supposed to be the way they sell it to you is like the way they sold it to me. Besides,
it just seems like it's just making everything worse.
It is.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
That's the whole thing. Is you're right. Like your confusion on this is totally the way we should all be looking at it. These methadone clinics, it's so fucked up, man. It's fucked up.
Yeah.
Okay, so check this out. Now I'm going there. I'm short, so every time I go in the mornings, I'm taking one shot there at the counter. The minute I get in the car, I'm taking a full shot, right? So now I'm missing a whole dose on the back end. This makes my addiction just erupt, and it makes me start going through the back end. I end up to where I take like the first 3 days I have a lot of methadone. The last 4 days I have none, right? And then finally I was just so miserable. Now I do this for a full year. I'm on this stuff. Yeah, and it gets so bad to where I'm like, I gotta go into treatment. Before I do though, there's one weekend where I'm in withdrawal so bad, I'm like, I gotta go to the hospital. So I go to the ER and I tell the doctor at the ER, I'm in withdrawal from methadone. I tell him exactly what I did, and the doctor's like, all right, I can give you a shot of Dilaudid. And I was like, okay.
and what is Dilaudid?
Dilaudid is double morphine. So it's if you take it orally, it's not very strong, but through the IV, it's very strong. It's stronger than morphine, and it's an opiate, and so it gave me that, took me out of withdrawal. That's for damn sure.
Well, okay, you keep talking about withdrawal,
yeah,
and you're like, so your solution to withdrawal, correct
more
me if
drugs.
I'm wrong, is more drugs.
Yeah.
So how, like, what's the solution here?
The only solution is abstinence. That's the real.
Yeah, so you got to suck it up for like a week or something, withdrawing.
Well, here's the thing. So because now it's methadone, the withdrawal is not just a week. It's 2 months minimum. And then before actually, because methadone gets into the bones, right? It gets into your bones. And so when you withdraw off methadone, you feel it coming out of your bones. Everything on you hurts, like as if you've broken something, only your entire body. And then it also gets into fatty tissues too, and it makes you gain weight. It slows down your metabolism. So I was puffy at the time, and the withdrawal on it is so long and so bad that it's like, now maybe this is good because it pushed me to look for treatment, right? And to me, I mean, dude, if I started taking Vicodin right now, or they don't make it anymore, Norcos. If I started taking Norcos right now, the only way for myself to come off it again, I'd have to go to a detox facility, because the withdrawal, I can't make it through the 7 days. Now with the methadone, it's like, it's going to be a while. So I call AAC, American Addiction Centers, and they get me on a plane that night. I go out to Vegas, is where they take me, to a place called Desert Hope. And I stayed for maybe 3 days. I had never been to treatment or anything before, and I panicked in there. I was like, it was freaking me out. And they had me what was on Suboxone or Subutex, and so it has a blocker, an opiate blocker in there, so that if I try to take other opiates, it'll make it not work. And then at the same time, it is a little bit of an opiate, so it slowly tapers you off. Well, I didn't realize that that's why I'm feeling okay. So after a couple days in, I'm like, I need to get back to work. And I feel fine. So I'm good to go. And they're trying to explain it to me that, like, no, you're gonna
you've got a couple months, bro.
Yeah. So I do a phone call with my wife, basically we had code words, of like, hey, like, I'm trapped in here, get me out of here, basically, but I slipped in it. And so she drives all the way from California to Vegas overnight. She works that day, drives to Vegas, picks me up. So she drove 5.5, 6 hours, picks me up. I drive home, dude. About an hour into the drive home, I realized, oh my God, I'm withdrawing already. I've made an absolute mistake. So I'm like, shit. So we get home after this drive, and I'm like, I talk her into giving me some of her Norcos, and I take some of those to get rid of the withdrawal. And I'm like, but I'll go to the doctor tomorrow, and I'll tell him I'm going cold turkey, and this time I won't accept any opiates, but I just need the time off work for me to do it. So I take about a month off work, and I withdraw off the methadone, and it was bad. I locked myself in I stayed in our living room on a blow-up mattress and was like, just don't come near me, and it was bad. I was freaking out in there and just miserable. I do kind of come off it, and I'm able to stay sober for like a month or two after, but it was like, I felt like garbage. I never felt like a regular human again. Like nothing felt right still. Felt like I was missing something. I wasn't working any program. I wasn't retraining anything. I just went right back to work and just tried to do everything I was doing, but now without drugs, and it was not working. And sure enough, man, I go back to the pills. But at least now I'm not on the methadone, but I'm on these pills, and my tolerance immediately is like the pills, I'm not even feeling them because of being on the methadone for so long. So I do that for a while, and then Emily goes away for a weekend, right? And I'm like, I run out of pills, and I had a buddy that I worked with that I thought, this dude could get some coke, right? And he lived walking distance, 5 minutes, and I'm like, something tells me he'd get some blow, and she's gone, so I'm like, I'm gonna get some blow. Right?
What was the sign? Like you said you
how I knew?
Yeah, how did you know?
I just fucking knew it.
Apparently there's just that look.
Yeah, there's just like I just fucking knew it. I don't know. And I walk over to his house with a 6-pack of beer, and I don't drink. I don't like drinking either. Yeah.
Which is good because then there's no segue.
Yeah, but I go over there with it. I'm like, hey man, I'm like, you want to have a couple of beers? He was excited that I showed up, somebody to hang out with. So we're hanging out a little bit. I'm there like 30 minutes. I'm like, hey, you can get some, want to get some blow, bro?
Said it just like that.
Similar to that. But so he's like, yeah. He's like, if I was waiting for you to ask, fuck that. So he gets some coke, and we start doing blow like every day. And it was like, it was keeping the withdrawal away a little bit, or at least distracting me from it. And so now it gets to the point where I'm doing blow like every day. And then one night, me and him, we go to pick up some coke, and he stops twice. And then I was like, that's weird. Like, we picked up twice. That was really weird. And then, he's like, oh yeah, I reached out to 2 drug dealers. He's like, and I didn't want to let one of them down because they both came through.
When that happened to me,
I don't want to let my drug dealer down.
I would just go. My thing was I always had like a few options.
Yeah,
I think it's like what most drug most addicts do. But I have like a simple thing I'd say, like, oh, I'll just hit you up next time. That was my signature move.
Was that it? That's your go-to?
If I had the first drug dealer to hit me back, or the cheapest price or whatever, the best deal, I go with him. And then if there was another guy who was interested in selling, I'd just be like, Well, just hit me up next time.
Oh, that's logical, but when it's you're adorable. I love you. You're adorable.
You're on a whole other scale.
At this point, dude, I was so full blown addiction, and so was this guy. It was like, I don't want to let the drug dealer down, dude. You know, he's a good dude. You know, he's coming all the way out here with his drugs. So we stopped twice.
It's like the only time you were ever nice in your addiction was to the drug dealer.
Exactly. Always wanted to be friends with him, buddy. No. But so, okay, we go back to his house. We're doing some blow. He had a couple girls over. Nothing. I was married. I never, even thought about cheating, but they were over there doing blow. I don't even think they were flirty or anything like that. It was just simply they wanted to do blow. He had it. They're doing some blow. And then we run out. And then he's like, he elbows me. He's like, hey, I still have more. Remember, I stopped twice. And I was like, oh, yeah. And he's like, I set it up in the bathroom. Come into the bathroom. So I go into the bathroom. He's got two very small lines already lined up on the tank of the toilet seat or the tank of the toilet, and I'm like, he goes, you first. I'm like, those are tiny. And he's like, oh, trust me, it's good shit. That's what he says. I'm like, okay. So I right. And I go, oh my God. And I start freaking out. My eyes are watering. My nose is running. I'm like crying. I'm like, don't do any. I'm like, I think it's laced or there's something wrong with it. And everything's burning. And he starts laughing. And I'm like, are you like tricking me? Like, what's going on here? Like, is that just salt or something? What did I snort? And he's like, dude, you never done crystal? And I'm like,
oh no,
crystal fucking meth? No! Right? I probably blew out the treble on that one. I'm like, no! Is that better? I'm like, no, I've never done crystal meth. Like, what the hell?
You did it again.
So I'm like, oh my God. Well, I also didn't know that like you only need to do, especially at that point into using it, that you only need to do like a line and you're good for a day, So we started snorting that like it was coke, right?
You know how I know this is probably a bad idea? Because you didn't put it on the sink counter. You just put it on the back of the...
Oh, that's the go-to, dude.
That's the
because
go-to?
You
Why?
can close the bathroom door. It was an apartment bathroom, so it was in the master bedroom.
Uh-huh.
So that was the only way to close ourselves off. If we didn't close that door, then if the girls walked back there, they'd see it.
Okay, so it was just a matter of convenience.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now like if I looked at it now, although it was already chopped up and it was pretty fine and it was already lined up and it was on top of a white toilet tank, so like I couldn't tell as much. Now, having seen as much methamphetamine as I've seen in my day, I would spot it right away. Like, that's fucking meth right there. But I thought it was coke at that point. And so
how can you spot the difference?
Well, coke is more like powdery. This is more like crystally. It looks like almost like clear,
it's like
and
shiny, or
yeah, but like it looks like an actual crystal. You know what I mean?
So you should have known right away.
Yeah, well, it was chopped up really fine, and it was like I said on top of the white background.
He tricked you.
He tricked me. Yeah, he tricked me. So so we do that. So I start doing this with him every morning. Like, I'm going over to his house and doing this, and then one day, we're at his house at night, and his buddy comes over, and he had saved his buddy like this little pile of it or something, and it's a little shard, and then the buddy comes over, and the buddy's like real twitchy, moving around. Like, I'm like, oh, this guy's a drug addict. That's what I'm thinking, right? So I see him come over, and he's like, dude, why are you guys wasting it, snorting it? He's like, you should be smoking it with only this much left. And I'm like, no, nuh-uh, I come over the next day, dude's got a pipe in his hand, he's smoking, and he's like, dude, you gotta try this. And I'm like, all right, give it here. Right? He's like, dude. So I smoke it, dude, for the first time, and I'm like, oh my God, this is a different ball game. And it was a dude. It set what happened to be in motion just this complete spiral of within 3 to 4 weeks. I was down to 125 pounds. I'll post a picture. I will post a picture on our Instagram and our website at thisisOurNormalPodcast.com. I was down to 125, and then when I came out of treatment, I was 190. I may have cheated a little bit on getting bigger, but yeah, I was down so small, dude. My family came out at one point, right? Because now I brawl with Emily and I leave. I say, you know what? you keep the apartment, I'm leaving, like, we're done. I won't get into why we brawl. It did have to do with me using drugs too, but we were just, it was time for us to split. And mainly I was a horrible husband. Let me make that very clear. I was not a good husband. I never cheated, but I was not a good husband. You know, I just wasn't a good dude. You know, I was shitty. So I leave, though. I say, you keep the apartment, I'm leaving. And then I had to go back over to get some clothes and stuff at one point, and I go back over there, and my sisters had come down because they could tell just by hearing me. You know, they lived 2.5 hours away, but it's like they wanted to see what was up. I just didn't seem right, and they come out, and they, like, I mean, it broke their hearts seeing me. I was 125 pounds. I'm 6'1". You know, I look like a Holocaust victim, you know, Holocaust survivor.
Man.
And they said to me, you know, like, is Emily poisoning you, right? Because I'm denying the drugs, and they want so bad to, like, for me to just come out and say that I'm using. They were trying to, because I would have just denied it, you know? So I hear, you know, is she poisoning you? I said, yeah, actually, yes, she must be, right?
Straight up
oh, dude, straight up, I'm like, she must be poisoning me. You're right. I think you guys found out, right?
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Yeah, so I start blaming that. Oh, at one point, I have somebody at work said to me, or a couple people, they were like, are you sick? Do you have cancer? And I was like, yep, I do. Yes, I do.
Let people guess.
Yeah, well, it was like anything but addiction, you know, because
we don't want anyone to know.
Because it's such a shameful thing. It's like, if you think I have cancer and I'm sick, at least you won't hate me, you know. So that was my feeling. I was like, yeah, just fuck it, I do have cancer.
It's one of the worst stigmas.
Yeah, it's brutal. So, you know, my siblings, you know, they go back home, and then they were trying to wait for me to come out. One of my sisters leaves me a voicemail, and this was detriment to me going into treatment, because she says to me, Saul, this is on the voicemail, and it crushed me. She goes, I know that you're not sick. She goes, you're using fucking drugs. She goes, you need to get off the drugs, get your ass to treatment. I don't want to hear it. I'm done with your lies. I'm done with your bullshit. Go get help. I love you. Go get help, right? And she laid the law down. It's my oldest sister, Jamie, and so she laid the law down. My other two sisters, though, were absolutely necessary in the way that they were comforting me and really trying to just keep me alive. They were buying me food and, like, nutrition drinks and stuff. But at the same time, they were going to push me into treatment too. They were just, you know, going about it different, and I needed all three of them. The exact way that they went about this was the only way for this to work for me. And so I'd say, you know, just before Thanksgiving, I decide, you know, I'm going into treatment. I didn't want to face everybody at Thanksgiving. And so I said, you know, I'm going into treatment. I find a treatment facility, and I had never been before. And so I go to this place in Santa Ana that ends up, I don't even know if it was licensed. It was, dude, I was there for a couple days, and I'm going through, like, psychosis and withdrawal, and I'm freaking out, and I'm, like, calling my family, and they're calling me, and they also have looked this place up, I guess, and they're like, I think it's some sort of insurance scam. I don't know where you're at, but, like, and they thought I went to this on purpose, like, as, you know, to, like, not really go get help, because they don't know what's going through my head. They're, you know, I'm on drugs. They're thinking, you know, I'm just trying to bullshit. And so somebody says something or sends me a text of, like, are you even allowed to leave? Like, have you been abducted there? Like, somebody says something like that. And
what?
Dude, because they're panicking too, because they're like, they think I'm gonna die, which I was dying, dude. I was dying. And that, you know, they're just like, they're freaking out. So I hear that, and because I'm still coming off drugs and I'm in psychosis, I'm like, oh my God, I'm abducted. Like, I can't, you guys are right. I can't leave. Like, what the hell? So they come to drive down. They're like, we're taking you to a nice place. We're going to get you in a better place. We're going to come pick you up and this and that. I said, okay, I'll just meet you guys there. And they were like, no, like, let us pick you up, you know, because they didn't want me to go use in between. And I didn't go use. I went straight to their place, and all my siblings and my mom and one of my sister's husbands drove me to treatment at Hope by the Sea, and got me in there. And I was scared, and my mom said to me on the way there, she says, she goes, why do you, you know, sweetheart, why do you do this, you know? And because I told her I don't like it. I don't like doing this. And she goes, and then why do you do it? And I said, I have to use to get out of bed. I have to use to be able to shave or go to work. I have to use otherwise I'm sick, otherwise, I'm anxious. Otherwise, I have to use just to be able to function. And, I could see her kind of understanding a little bit. This is all new for them too, this whole addiction thing and how to treat it. And it was as new as it was for me. But getting into Hope by the Sea changed my life. Something just flipped a switch once I had been there after a week. The withdrawal started to lighten up a bit, and I was able to kind of give into some of the program that they were doing there and some of the therapy, and it really just clicked with me. And I was able to get sober, and I stayed there. So it was $30,000 a month there, right? And my family laid down $10,000 for the first 30 days, and they said, we'll go from there and figure it out. And after 30 days there, they told me, stay as long as you like. They're like, you're doing so good here. You're able to help other clients too. You're helping yourself. You're working hard. They said, we don't normally offer scholarships at a place like this. They're like, but we'll scholarship you the rest of the way. They gave me, it ended up being about $80,000 that they scholarshiped me to stay there for how long I stayed. And I can't be more thankful to Hope by the Sea. That was the only place that was going to work for me. Just, it was right timing. It was right everything, right people there. And it got me sober. And so that was my first journey getting sober. That's where I met Mikey Hall, it just clicked and worked while I was there. And, I'll go into how treatment was for me, on another podcast, because that's a whole other story for how I took on treatment and the experience there. But yeah, that was my experience, using meth for the first time, going to a methadone clinic. And the thing is with some of these places, like methadone clinics, it's important that everybody knows that is not a way to get off of opiates. That's a parking place. That's not a place that's for addicts. That's for society and harm reduction. And I wanted that to be very clear. Treatment facilities like Hope by the Sea, places where they have staff that's dedicated to getting us help. It's important that we go to places like that over like just an urgent care or a family practitioner, because those doctors don't understand addiction like they do at a treatment facility, and I'm not saying these are the only ways to get sober. That I've said it many times, there's infinite ways to get sober. But if you are going to reach out to a if you're going to go get medical help, I highly suggest going to an actual treatment center and doing it that way, because the staff there is trained and specializes in this. They have therapists on staff, they have doctors on staff 24/7. They have other addicts there that also work there that can relate to you and show you how things they're doing to get sober. And that was detriment to me, my first experience with that. It was scary as hell. I got lucky enough, like I said, my family took me down there, and so it made it easier for me to go in because I had all that support. My family, by the way, throughout my entire recovery couldn't have handled it better. Especially for not knowing how this works and everything. They had to learn just as I did. They couldn't have handled it better, man. I've been blessed with that. If there's families out there that have, other family members struggling with addiction, I'd say, the best thing to do is do research on it yourself, as well as going to like Al-Anon meetings and stuff, just to get more understandings of the addiction. Some of my family members came to the treatment facility that I was at and went into groups, that I was there and helped them. Amy talks about that. That was when, on Amy's episode, she said, I wasn't that connected with you until I went to one of your recovery groups that was at Hope by the Sea. And she went there and was able to kind of see how addiction works a little. And then that's when she started to have a lot of compassion towards it. She's a very compassionate person anyways, but that's when she, was able to connect with me a lot better. But so I just want to speak a little bit about that, and my, all on a different podcast, I'll get into more about the treatment. But yeah, if you have loved ones struggling with addiction, I highly suggest going to those things and being part of the recovery with them, going to the treatment facilities with them. But I don't know, Joel, you got anything else you want to add to this, Dylan?
No, I think everything you've said is solid, man.
Right on. Well, it's about that time. I want to remind everybody, go to our website. This is ournormalpodcast.com. There's links to all of the episodes that are on there. There's also links to iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music. There's our Twitter and Instagram handles. Please go to there, like our pages. Facebook, like our page on there as well. And then also, if you want to support the podcast, please go to iTunes, click subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, and most importantly, I cannot stress this enough, please leave us a comment along with the 5-star rating on iTunes. That will really help out. Share the podcast with your friends and family members. That would really help us and support us. But thanks for tuning in this week, guys, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys.
And this is Saul Jones, your host, and Joel Cowan, our producer.